fucking thing. Fuck it. Fuck it. Do it live. Fuck it. I'll write it and we'll do it live. Fuck it. Fuck it. Fuck it. Do it live. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll fuck it live. Fucking thing sucks. Fucking thing.
Hello everyone, like NASA, I have to get that one fuck up in just to make sure everything's okay. How are we today? Bonheur local. Gonna give it a couple more moments before I start going into my spiel, because I've got like a part of a script, more like an outline, that I'm trying to follow for this, because I'm doing it live, but at the same time, you gotta have some prep, right? Yeah, just give me a moment to roll my necessary accoutrement. I'll give people some time to get in here, since I've only been live for 6 minutes. I like to wait a good 10-15 minutes before really getting going, because some fucks are always fashionably late. One of the big reasons I want to talk about PTSD, though, is the Fort Lauderdale shooting. So, while there is a lot of reason to be disrespectful about it, I feel like we should show a little bit of, civility when it comes to the subject, because there is a real problem with PTSD, and it's homeless men. As always, when I'm talking, it's homeless men. And I really want to give people an opportunity to understand what PTSD really is, because I think it would solve a lot of problems just to spread this information. So, give me a minute to lick this off, and we will get to the fucking show. By the way, how y'all liking the music? Alright. Bonheur local, mademoiselles et messieurs, and welcome to a special episode of Dexplained, in which I will be covering a subject very dear to me: post-traumatic stress disorder. Now, when you hear that, you might cringe at just the image of whinging college students complaining on Twitter about perceived slights that have traumatized them permanently. Or you might imagine George Carlin's bit about it, in which he explains,
there's a condition in combat, most people know about it. It's when a fighting person's nervous system has been stressed to its absolute peak and maximum, can't take any more input. The nervous system has either snapped or is about to snap. In the First World War, that condition was called shell shock. Simple, honest, direct language, 2 syllables, shell shock. Almost sounds like the guns themselves. That was 70 years ago. Then a whole generation went by, and the Second World War came along, and the very same combat condition was called battle fatigue. 4 syllables now. Takes a little longer to say. Doesn't seem to hurt as much. Fatigue is a nicer word than shock. Shell shock. Battle fatigue. Then we had the war in Korea, 1950. Madison Avenue was riding high. There's a condition in combat, most people know about it. It's when a fighting person's nervous system has been stressed to its absolute peak and maximum, can't take any more input. The nervous system has either snapped or is about to snap. In the First World War, that condition was called shell shock. Simple, honest, direct language, 2 syllables, shell shock. Almost sounds like the guns themselves. That was 70 years ago. Then a whole generation went by, and the Second World War came along, and the very same combat condition was called battle fatigue. 4 syllables now. Takes a little longer to say. Doesn't seem to hurt as much. Fatigue is a nicer word than shock. Shell shock. Battle fatigue. Then we had the war in Korea, 1950. Madison Avenue was riding high by that time, and the very same combat condition was called operational exhaustion. Hey, we're up to 8 syllables now. And the humanity has been squeezed completely out of the phrase. It's totally sterile now. Operational exhaustion. Sounds like something that might happen to your car. Then, of course, came the war in Vietnam, which has only been over for about 16 or 17 years. And thanks to the lies and deceit surrounding that war, I guess it's no surprise that the very same condition was called post-traumatic stress disorder. Still 8 syllables, but we've added a hyphen. And the pain is completely buried under jargon. Post-traumatic stress disorder. I'll bet you if we'd have still been calling it shell shock, some of those Vietnam veterans might have gotten the attention they needed at the time. I'll bet you.
I want you to take keen awareness of some specific descriptions he uses here. He follows the history of words back to their origins. In this case, shell shock in World War I, to battle fatigue in World War II, to operational exhaustion in Korea and whatchamacallit, all the way to the present day with post-traumatic stress disorder. Unfortunately, the great wordsmith did not survive to witness things only becoming dumber amidst political correctness and overwhelming narcissism in all living generations of people. I love your joke, Georgie, but honestly, maybe these veterans would be getting help if 1,000 bitchy kids that don't know what being stressed truly beyond physical and neurological capacity means would stop saying they have it and wasting psychiatrists' time. But Mr. Carlin's only a comedian. It would be madness to take his words as gospel on the subject of mental health. Let's instead take the words of the National Institute for Mental Health. Oh, fuck you, Nimit. Alright, here's a good example of what you shouldn't use as a reference when investigating PTSD. PTSD is a disorder that develops in some people who have experienced a shocking, scary, or dangerous event. It is natural to feel afraid during and after a traumatic situation. Fear triggers many split-second changes in the body to help defend against danger or to avoid it. This fight or flight response is a typical reaction meant to protect a person from harm. Nearly everyone will experience a range of emotions after trauma, yet most people recover from initial symptoms naturally. Those who continue to experience problems may be diagnosed with PTSD. Yada yada fucking yada. There has to be better sources than this, right? I mean, there just has to be. That is literally the definition of retarded. That is taking us back a step. Ooh, I got an idea. Let's check in with the VA. There we go. We actually get the DSM-5 criteria for PTSD. So let's dive in for a moment, shall we? In 2013, the American Psychiatric Association revised the PTSD diagnostic criteria in the 5th edition of its Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, DSM-5. PTSD included in a new category, trauma and stressor-related disorders. All of the conditions included in this classification require exposure to a traumatic or stressful event as a diagnostic criterion. For a review of the DSM-5 changes to the criteria of PTSD, see the American Psychiatric Association fact sheet on post-traumatic stress disorder, which we'll be getting to in a bit. But first, let's go over the VA's advertising of the criterion. DSM-5 criteria for PTSD. Criterion A. 1 required. The person was exposed to death, threatened death, actual or threatened serious injury, actual or threatened sexual violence in the following ways. I hate that DSM-5 added the word threatened. It's so disgusting. Utterly fucking disgusting. Seriously, no. You have to be exposed to genuine trauma, and threats do not cause genuine trauma unless you're a bubbled little fucking child. At which point your problem isn't PTSD, it's you're fucking useless. You're a useless human being. You've allowed yourself to become so weak that there isn't a DSM criterion for you yet, and there won't be with the current trend in mental health. Anyway. 1 required. Direct exposure, witnessing the trauma, learning that a relative or close friend was exposed to the trauma. That actually is true. I'm going to go into detail about that in just a moment. Indirect exposure to aversive details of the trauma, usually in the course of professional duties, yes. Here's the thing. I can't, I have to use my own case, because that's the only thing I've got, because I've done amazing things with it, apparently. People are impressed and amazed with the work that I've done with my mental disorders. But, here, I've never been able to talk about them. It's taken me decades to get to the point where I can write and talk about these issues that I have without causing people to lose their fucking minds. And that's not a joke. I have had people break down crying, lose track of all that they were thinking about. What you're given is manipulating you. God damn it! Okay, sorry. Let me restart, because I've apparently just been disconnected again. Fuck you, YouTube. Why the hell? Fuck you, WoW Internet. Fuck, can someone in the chat tell me where I cut off? Because I just lost my place because I got stupid. Hold on, let me backtrack. Pony Island is an amazing example of a post-traumatic flashback, which is a very specific event, and very rare, honestly. People who are having them have them frequently, but they are in themselves rare as a symptom these days. But Pony Island, the game, in it, you think you're in complete control, but because you're being fed incorrect information, manipulative information through all of your senses, all of the time, all of your actions are skewed towards the influence of the devil that is controlling you. It's disturbing in reality. And most people who play Pony Island, I think, have no idea just how god-awful it is to be trying to rescue your lover from a firefight outside Kabul, for example. Just pulling that out of my ass because I'm not going to go into my details. That's not what this is about. It's not about me. It's about the homeless men. As always with me, it's about the homeless men. Alright. Criterion C. Avoidance of trauma-related stimuli after the trauma in the following ways. This one is useless. This detail gives you no information about the disorder. It's useful in a clinical setting, but not useful in a diagnostic setting. So if a person is hospitalized for PTSD, yeah, it's important to know how they avoid, so you can stop them from avoiding. Why? Because the cure to PTSD is exposure. Re-exposure and reacclimation is the only way to get through PTSD. And safe spaces will only hurt you more, will only make you a more vulnerable person. So I'm skipping that one. Criterion D. 2 required. Negative thoughts or feelings that began or worsened after the trauma in the following ways. Inability to recall key features of the trauma. Overly negative thoughts and assumptions about oneself and the world. Suicidal should be the word there. Suicidal thoughts. You want to destroy yourself because you are so far outside. You self-ostracize. Exaggerated blame of self or others for causing the trauma. Negative affect. Now, it's not negative effect, it's negative affect. Everything you say and do is negative. It's like unstoppably negative. And it gets on people's nerves and it hurts them because they can't be around you without you being that negative. But it's a negative affect. Oh, we're live or not? Oh, fuck yeah, we're back. Alright. Criterion E. Trauma-related arousal and reactivity. Not arousal like, you know, all you assholes are aroused by my voice. That began or worsened after the trauma in the following ways. Irritability and aggression. Risky or destructive behavior. Hypervigilance. Hypervigilance, in case you don't know, is a state of being where you are constantly aware of all the sounds and sights around you. It's kind of like being a squirrel. You're just constantly looking around, trying to... Your ears are absorbing everything, and you're paying attention to everything and nothing at the same time. But you are so keenly aware that you will notice spots on the wall where a person has recently spackled over a damage on the wall, for example. Or you will notice really fine details, places where people have cleaned. Very specific word choices are another place where hypervigilance comes about. Heightened startle reaction. This is one everyone's familiar with. This is where a car backs up and then he just loses his shit, right? Well, I went through this for about 5 years, where if I heard anything that sounded like a goddamn rifle, I would start shaking violently, and then I would get very aggressive for like a day. And I didn't know how to stop it. I didn't know how to deal with it. I was so fucking violent in my early 20s. Difficulty concentrating and difficulty sleeping. Difficulty sleeping loops back, of course, up to Criterion F. Symptoms last for more than 1 month. G. Symptoms create distress and functional impairment. Functional impairment, bitches. So if you say you have PTSD and you're a fucking college student and you go back to class after 3 or 4 days because you got bored in your goddamn apartment, you don't have PTSD and you're making life harder for homeless men, and I hate you. Symptoms are not due to medication, substance use, or illness. This is a painful one for me, because this is where a lot of people lose their diagnosis, because they use alcoholism to treat their own PTSD. This is a common form of homeless self-medication. The veterans will drink a 6-pack in the morning, a 6-pack in the afternoon, and a 12-pack at night. And this is their diet. And it keeps them alive, but it also keeps them from killing everybody in the shelter. And then there are 2 specifications. The dissociative specification, in which an individual experiences high levels of either of the following in related to trauma-related stimuli. Depersonalization. This is something that I'm very familiar with. Experience of being an outside observer or detached from oneself. This is not happening to me or in a dream. Derealization. Experience of unreality. Distance or distortion. Things are not real. I've never actually gone through that. Everything has always been painfully real to me. But, delayed specification. Full diagnostic criteria are not met until at least 6 months after the traumas, although this was the big problem for me. Because when I got out of the military, I was fine for like 8 months or so. I held it together. And then it became a cycle of every goddamn 3 months, I would fuck something up and I would have to move. And when I say move, I mean like I would change states or countries. Because I would fuck things up so bad. I would break people. Anyway. We're gonna go back up here now and check out this fact sheet on post-traumatic stress disorder. Even though I'm pissed at the APA. Let's see. Online assessment measures. Fuck you. Let me zoom in for you guys. That should be legible all the way down to like 640 by 480, so alright. If it's illegible, please turn up your video, but otherwise I will be reading a little bit more. I hate you. I hate you so... I give up. I give up. I think I've made my point pretty well, though. At this point, I feel it important to make a distinction, though. Post-traumatic stress disorder is the response to extreme, traumatizing stressors that tax the mind beyond its breaking point for a period of greater than 6 months. Whereas, blowing one's experiences out of proportion to promote a narrative of victimhood is codependence, and possibly even Munchausen syndrome. So, thank you all for joining me for a little discussion about this. Just to spread some non-misinformation about the goddamn horrors of what PTSD really is. Because it is an utter nightmare, and it does disable a person from functioning in society. A lot of the people on the streets, a lot of the white and black men, are veterans. They want nothing more than to continue being a part of their country, serving with their community. They want to be civilians, but they can't, and because people judge them before they have a chance to understand, we're left with horrible, horrible conditions for those who need it most. This isn't meant to be a hard-hitting response to a culturally supported video or concept. My conclusions are nothing new, but I find it extremely important to inform people to the facts about shell shock, because the greatest limitation to those people who suffer it is genuine understanding from those around them. I hope you can look at homeless veterans in a new light with this information, and I hope we can all start having a deeper, more nuanced discourse regarding the subject of post-traumatic stress disorder within our societies. Bonsoir, mon cher. Well, do you want to ask me some questions, guys? I'd love to take some questions from the audience before I do my sign-off. So, if you have any questions for me, just post your question in the live chat or on Discord. I will make sure I can see Discord in the Asylum channel. So, in the YouTube live chat or in the Discord on this Discord server in the Asylum channel. Meanwhile, I'm going to roll a few roaches into a joint. Oh, go ahead, Apex Miner. I'd love to take your question. Alright, we've got a question coming from Apex Miner, and I am still rolling a child of roaches. How do I cope with PTSD? How do I specifically cope? I presume you mean how do I specifically cope with it? Well, this is one of the ways. I smoke a metric fuck ton of weed. It used to be I used to smoke a metric fuck ton of heroin, but I think this was a strong upgrade. You know what I mean? But, mostly, exposure therapy. One of the reasons I love Shitlords so much is because you all test me. Every discussion we have, there's a chance you guys are going to say something that could genuinely fuck with me. But I will never bring that up. Not in discussion, because I want you to surprise me. I want you to hurt me. I want you to challenge me to be a better fucking person. My life is exposure therapy. That is my method. That is the method to my madness. What do I think my future is like, Dave Evert? That's a... Shit, is that your... Fuck. That might be my dad in the audience there. Dave Evert. Not very stealthy there, my friends. My future is looking like I'm gonna be a mix of entertainer and an infotainer, I'll call it. That's the direction I'm going in. I'm going to more and more incorporate my ability as a programmer into my learning how to be an entertainer. And yeah, that's kind of what I've given myself, because my cancer's back. And I don't want to talk about it much, but I'm gonna have to deal with that whole bullshit again. Anyway, have you tried... Hannah Randall asks, have you tried the strain Godberry? Yes, I have. I have tried Godberry Caviar. Be jealous, bitches. Be jealous. For those of you who don't know what caviar is in reference to weed, caviar is marijuana nuggets soaked in marijuana hash oil and rolled in marijuana keef, or THC crystals. If not rolled, packed in it, and let to sit for like a month so it can cure on its own in the dark. You end up with this gorgeous black shit that you smoke and it kills you. It's wonderful. Alright, how is LT? Asks Levi, the Lord of Cancer. And she is actually doing wonderful. She is passed out on the couch right now because I have basically given her that couch. The floor in here is rocky, so it's not a good place for her to sleep. So I let her sleep on the couch. But only there. She's not allowed on other furniture. Only very specific pieces of furniture. And it's not been easy teaching her that, but I'm glad I did. I've not tried the Moby Dick strain, no. Toddy McHottie. However, we really should be asking questions regarding PTSD. And yes, I have missed you, Humongous. How did you know I missed you? I know I've got another joint around here somewhere I can tear with. There we go. My stream's been going kind of crazy, Humongous. I haven't been playing hardball as well as I should. LT is actually getting to be really close with a couple of the dogs, but not all of them. One of the dogs is very defensive. He's an unneutered male, and he doesn't like that LT is so much bigger than him. Oh, yeah, I purged all my mods. The only mods I have right now are Satyr Cats, Kraut and Tea, Liz Reptile, and... But you know what? I'll give you back your wrench. 'Cause I love you. Anyway, I'll take 3 more questions. And then I'm going to play my outro reel. So, Does weed ever make give your PTSD worse? Asks Hannah Randall. I'm actually very good at not smoking too much. However, I have been smoking for like 6 years now, so my tolerance is like Snoop Dogg's. I can smoke a lot of weed without it having any effect, or noticeable effect, other than my pain is much more manageable. But normally the PTSD just makes it, or the PTSD is relaxed to the point where I am not constantly building up stress based on everything that is happening around me. Taking responsibility for it inside my head. Does that make sense? Alright, 2 more questions. Would you go back to South America again someday? Abso-fucking-lutely. I would adore spending time in Argentina, honestly. I want to visit Argentina, and not be working, essentially. I would also visit Chile again. I love Chile. I also can fly there for very cheap, because I did work for LAN-Chile. And I still have contacts over there that will get me discounts. And the last question of the night, by Augusto Pinochet, also known as Humongous. How exactly do you feel about Melody Hensley, aka the Twitter... Okay, well, yeah, the Twitter PTSD triggered cunt. That is utter horseshit, and that is the kind of thing that is retarding our society. When a person goes online and says they have PTSD because of something someone said on Twitter, they are devaluing the disorder itself, and in the eyes of everyone else. It makes it much harder for a person when they experience a person genuinely experiencing post-traumatic stress disorder to take them seriously, right? So you're ending up with these fucking pussy college students who very often don't have PTSD, who, as I said before, at best have codependency disorder and Munchausen syndrome. That's at best, mind you. I'm not diagnosing them, I'm accusing them. They are making it harder for anyone who has been in the fucking sandbox to get help. Because suddenly, psychiatrists, civilian psychiatrists, who can't help at the VA anymore because their patient load is shot through the roof with safe space bitches, whether or not they're on the side of safe spaces or not. How do I feel about it? I'm fucking pissed. Wait, did I drop out for a second? Do I need to repeat the answer? Let me know in the audience if I just dropped out and missed it, because I just went on a rant. And if you guys missed that, I feel terrible. I'm going to presume that I've been airing because I'm still ticking and everything, so yeah. That's about my position. I hate it. I hate it, and whenever I see it, I want to strangle them so they do get PTSD. I want to give them PTSD with my bare fucking hands. But I don't. I instead smoke a joint and do my shit. Alright, well, I've been streaming for God knows what amount of time. I originally only wanted this to be like an hour-long show. 45 minutes. I wanted it to be a 20-minute show. It's been 45 minutes. So let's cut to the outro. Mwah!